Well, I'm an alternate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we got a quorum. We have 4 people. So I guess we can get, and I know Diane was interested in being here. Talked to her this morning. She was gonna be here. And then Tim Lord and Fred Devine said they weren't gonna be able to attend. So I got those down. So let me call it at 2:07. We have a quorum.
Did we lose John?
Oops. What happened to John?
This has been happening in some of the virtual meetings I've been in recently, that people have been there and then they've disappeared. Here he is again.
Okay, we'll quickly take a screenshot. You there, John? I think you're muted.
Yes, I am here.
Hey, good hearing from you. So we have a quorum.
Good.
Okay, public comment. I did not see anybody in our public room, but they would have 3 minutes each. So we'll go on to the minutes. The clerk was not able to send out the minutes. I ended up sending a copy of the minutes. They're rather brief. Hopefully you had been able to view them. If there's no exception, we'll go ahead and accept the minutes. Hearing no exceptions, we'll accept them. Okay, staff report. Unfortunately, I guess it's only been 2 months since we met last. I don't have a lot of items. I did ask Public Works and Parks to be here. They instead sent me some information of a couple projects that are going on. Hopefully they'll be at our August or our September meeting. September? September, actually. I think the agenda is wrong.
Sorry about that.
Let me check on one little thing here. Okay. So they one item that came up last time was talking about a accessible or drive accessible post box downtown. I gave a call to the postmaster. They're looking into it. They think that they might be able to put one on their site. I haven't heard back from them. I will follow up for the next meeting. I also talked to Public Works. They indicated that there were several posts or several boxes downtown, but I think they failed to comprehend the importance of being able to access it on the driver's side, not the passenger side.
There's one drive up downtown and it's on the passenger side.
Right.
And there are others that you have to get out of the car no matter what, you know, so.
So I think the only one-way street we have that isn't like a freeway is East Street that goes through.
I don't remember anymore because they've messed around with all of them so much.
They eliminated C is now goes both ways. I think B goes the other way, B Street. So Public Works indicated that maybe there's opportunity to put a post box on B Street. The only resistance I have is our parking divisions are taking it in the shorts, so to speak, with the parkettes and the free parking for like 15-minute parking. So that would maybe take out a meter or two, which they're not inclined to do. Public Works thought there might be another solution. So we're looking at a box either on B Street and or the post office doing something different in their parking lot.
That seems
Right.
like the most likely is to have it at the post office, you know,
Right.
because then I mean, they can pick it up right there for one thing, which is what they were able to do before. It was just across the street.
Right, and I think if you come in off of Third into their parking lot, it's kind of one way out to C Street.
Yeah, it is.
And there's a
Belleville.
weird little half sidewalk curb up against their building, which seems like it would be a good location for a box.
It would, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we're hoping will occur. If I have to, I can maybe even sketch it out for them and give it to them. It's not that hard, but
It's funny, they've got a DP spot in the back of the post office, but you have to go in the driveway to go around. There's a sidewalk, but then it ends up at stairs. So if you were in a wheelchair, you wouldn't be able to use that sidewalk anyway. So it's
Right.
kind of odd. The whole construction there is really, really odd.
Exactly. So that's basically the only update I have from last time, and we will follow up to see where they are for the next meeting.
Well, thanks for checking on that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was kind of actually a fun little project. I actually ran into a contractor in the parking lot who asked me what I was doing. The updates I have from Public Works, and I will pull up their information. So starting June 2nd, the city has hired a contractor to make improvements to various pedestrian paths, including ADA upgrades, crosswalk refreshing, and installation of rapid rectangular flashing beacons in the Canal District. They're anticipating two of the most heavily used intersections in the Canal neighborhood, which are also part of the Safe Pathway to School network, will get upgraded with ADA compliance, along with additional ADA ramps and refreshing stripes at crosswalks. The construction is planned to go through July. So it just started today, and we'll be going through July, end of July. The other project is they're looking to take down and have almost completely remove the temporary fire station here up behind City Hall. That gets to be metered public parking. And they're in a discussion right now of adding at least one handicap parking space to that. The problem we have is we have some challenges getting down to the sidewalk on C Street. We have a steep vehicular ramp and stairs, and it may be too long for them to come all the way back to City Hall and down our convoluted, our serpentine route to get down to Fifth Street. And we do have two handicap parking spaces here at City Hall. So this will be at the other end of the parking space or parking lot.
Those spaces are often taken by people using the library, I'll tell you too, because there's very little library parking and a lot of seniors use the library a lot. I know
Yeah, so
because
it's
I
kind
use
of-
those to go to the library.
It's kind of weird that we have this parking lot here that's subdivided into metered, some staff parking, some carpool parking, and then free city and library parking.
Mhm.
The ADA parking space in the metered area will not be metered. The city has a policy that they don't charge on any of the handicap parking in their parking garages or parking lots. So that's going to continue here, but it's just kind of, they just sprung it on me a couple days ago, and I'm trying to work out the details of how that's going to actually work. We may have to look at doing some curb cuts to get them up onto the sidewalk, and they may have to go back towards City Hall to get down to Fifth Street. But that's something new, and maybe we'll have a drawing of that parking lot here shortly. Everything else that we talked about time before is still in the works. I haven't seen any updates for 3rd Street or 2nd Street on their crosswalks. And I haven't heard anything new about Terra Linda out there either. We did have an interesting fiasco last week out at 4 Point Sheraton. They were installing a backup generator. Contractor painted himself into a corner with PG&E, decided to use the backup generator as temporary power without any of the sound abatements in place, which basically lit up the neighborhood for 3 nights and was rather loud. But the whole discussion has come up again about acoustics and sound abatement, which I'm not sure if there's a direct tie-in to ADA at all, but it seems like people do have different tolerances for loud sounds or continuous loud sounds. And I know we want to take a look at that noise abatement ordinance and maybe look at it. The problem with that is once we open that up, it might also include the leaf blowers and trimmers and other nuisances in the community. But it kind of is all based on health, right? If we, if they went to quieter, maybe electric blowers, then it cuts out the emissions, it reduces sound, it might be better quality.
I believe part of the generator discussion, though, is people who need power for medical devices and refrigeration for medication.
Yeah, that's why we loosened up the backup generating noise ordinances. As long as they can hit 69 dBAs, or the unit is listed for 69 dBAs, it's allowed. So. Okay. And that's the reason we did that about a year and a half, or about 2 years ago, I guess. A year and a half ago. Okay, I don't have any updates from the county. I did get a update from the state. I guess they are going forward with their CAST testing. I think they have one scheduled for June. And then I will be signed up for the one in October to get my CASP squared away. That's about all the updates I know of. Did anybody else have any information for the good of the order? Or? No. Oh, one other update I didn't write down. I did meet with Kate Mayer, and I did meet with Councilman Hill. They were very interested and supportive of us coming up with a plan to use some of the $80,000 that was collected through business licenses and do some sort of outreach or education to local businesses, and maybe do something about maybe giving them some recognition, or giving them, besides giving them the information, maybe there's some way we can recognize them that they're accessible, and maybe they're listed on a website, or it's really open-ended. So if anybody has seen what other jurisdictions have done, that might be helpful. We're in kind of a very early planning phase of trying to figure out how to spend the money in an intelligent and useful way.
Is there any kind of like a seal of accessibility, or
yeah, that's
something like that they could put in their window, a decal or something, and say this, this has been cleared to be an accessible venue something like that. you know.
Exactly, right? That's
I mean,
kind of
there's a
what I was
lot
thinking.
involved with that, though. It might involve, the adequate, accessibility for hearing impaired or blind or, walking. There's so many different aspects of accessibility. So,
Right,
I
and
don't,
then
Yeah,
we
well,
have also these restaurants that are on the sidewalk or in a parking space, so maybe their space inside is accessible, which maybe with the lessening of the restrictions, that's good, but you still have these other components that they don't have direct control over.
yeah.
who would vet these for the seal? Would I don't know, we could,
Yeah, the
Uh,
city in the past has done different things for green buildings.
mhm.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're very short-lived and don't last more than a code cycle or two. We were thinking that maybe, especially if we have a lot of vacant buildings in downtown Santa Fe due to the corona, maybe come up with a packet that helps them understand what they need to do, at least under the building code, and that they might have some other obligations under the federal ADA Act.
Hmm.
To try and give them kind of a checklist or some guidance. I know we had when Copperfield Bookstore moved,
Yeah.
the process of moving, they looked at several different locations downtown, and the same question came up. They were worried about accessible ADA restrooms. And even though we've assured them that these three venues had accessible restrooms, that kept coming up. And even subsequently, when other tenants have looked at these buildings, they have basically the same question. There's like, oh, is the restrooms accessible? What I found a little crazy in this instance is the three rentals downtown, they're obviously ADA accessible restrooms. I mean, it's not like a back closet that was converted or something. I mean, they're pretty well done. But it was surprising that they would still ask and was concerned about that before signing a lease.
May have been their attorney brought it up or something.
Yeah, who knows? So maybe if we had a checklist that would help the landlords and the tenants come together. So those were just a couple ideas that I shared with Mayor Kate and Councilman Hill. And Councilman Hill, I had an extremely good conversation with him. He's a little bit more interested in maybe broadening the scope of the committee, maybe looking at, things that we mentioned even today, hearing, maybe mental health or perceptions and accessibility and people being able to allow maybe people to age in place. Maybe right now we're all fairly able-bodied, but as we get older, we might need more assistance. And is there a way that the community can work together to allow, maybe people to stay in their homes or stay in their community as they age and maybe
That's, yeah,
have hearing or sight, or maybe can't walk as far as they used to, or
yeah, I've heard a lot of people, Kaiser's doing a study right now on that as a continuity of care thing, how to, and I think we're in CIL is also looking at the aging in place. It's it's a
right. And it can be
something.
simple things like for a building permit, do I need a building permit to make a ramp to my front door? Or is there a canned plan that the city will approve, or will the city waive the fees or just waive it? I know there's been a couple issues in San Anselmo where the person doesn't have very much of a front yard for a ramp and has to kind of encroach into the public way, which doesn't really exist. It's just landscaping, but is that allowed or not allowed?
I just read that because we contribute to Habitat for Humanity, we get their flyers and everything, and they have a program called Aging in Place, and they, we do have a Habitat in San Francisco. I believe there's one in Sonoma County as well, and older people can apply with them to get upgrades made to their homes so that they don't have to move. So that's you know, somebody that the city might be able to partner with to turn people to them, people who are low income, who need those kinds of upgrades, but could stay home if they, you know, if they, whether they're in a rental or their home. But anyway, they do that. They have
So
Don't
that
maybe the
program.
recall-
city, oh, go ahead.
I don't recall if it's the city or the county of Santa Clara, but there's a commission for aging. And San Francisco, I think, has something similar as well.
Mhm.
You could look at those those cities or agencies and see the purview of those commissions.
And I think the city of San Rafael wants to do something, they want to kind of wrap it up into one large committee. And I forget which committee the mayor was referring to. But instead of having a separate committee, they were looking at trying to integrate it into existing committee. I think they want to kind of, I think I got the feeling they kind of want to have the committees be more efficient from the council. But I'm not sure exactly what that means at the moment. So. But she did mention about having, maybe it's the Parks Commission, having a committee on, or having a committee member on the Parks Commission that represents those interests. Did you hear anything about that, Ashley, from Parks? No. So, let's see, did I have anything else on my list here? That's about, I think that's about all I have on my list. Was there any other discussions? I'm sorry, the agenda was a little light for today. Was hoping Public Works and Parks would have somebody here to talk about their projects. I think they're a little distracted by we're supposed to be open, I think on the 15th in about 2 weeks to the public. So we're trying to struggle to get staff back in the office where we can. And it's been a bit of a struggle.
How did the tennis court at Gerstle Park end up?
So the last that we left it was that they were going to, they're doing a master plan of parks, and they hired a consultant. And they were going to see if the consultant could include aspects of accessibility in that study, which I was trying to encourage them because they had some money that we didn't have, and maybe it should be part of that master plan of parks. So they got back to me. About 75% of the work can be done by the consultant, but 25% they thought they would need to hire outside specialists, and they were going to look into it to see what that cost difference was. So it was kind of good news, bad news. The consultant thought he could handle the bulk of the work, but there would be maybe some additional consulting fees that would be outside their scope. So that's where they were going to leave it. I thought it would probably be a pretty good deal because they have quite a few of our buildings and quite a few of our public spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So if they could incorporate that, and I tried to explain to them, you know, just because they don't maybe have the money today to bring that entire facility completely up to ADA, they should chip away at it and have a plan of what pieces they will do as money becomes available over time. And not to be totally stuck on the idea that it has to be wheelchair accessible, while they could do other improvements. I think before we were here, we were mentioning, you know, even simple things like getting in and out of the court, making sure that you had opening devices that didn't twist the wrist, right? But they should also work on trying to get accessibility, wheelchair accessibility up there or they need to figure out their programming where maybe they put that money in another park nearby that is more accessible for those functions. I think one of those that came up were down here at Anderson. But even Anderson has some issues with their parking, and it's just, they need to come up with a plan. And I think if they came up with a plan, we could develop a budget, and then we could develop a schedule on how to handle those. I did get support from, or we did get support from Councilman Hill and Mayor Kate about making this a priority for the city. So Public Works and Parks needs to make it a priority. And they need to find money, or the council needs to budget money to make these things happen. So I was kind of happy to hear that from the councilman and the mayor.
At least they said it.
Yeah, right? Half of it's, yeah, just getting the acknowledgement. I don't, Councilman Hill does want to come to one of our meetings. He seems like a super great guy, super conscious about the community, very gracious and sincere. I had a very good meeting with him. And he does think this is one of the communities that are underserved. So that was really kind of refreshing to hear from him. He seemed like he was very knowledgeable, but at the same time very receptive and open. Was kind of refreshing. And now that this is videotaped, you probably will see it. Okay. Anything else? So it looks like we're getting out of here a little bit early. Hopefully, John, you're still with us. Everything good?
I am.
Okay. So one last thing, and I had it listed here, but it was right at the end of their meeting. So our next meeting, technically, the agenda said August 4th, but it's really September 1st. And I know we've seemed like we're hitting the holidays right after, these meetings have occurred right after these holidays. I was hoping that we could maybe reschedule this meeting to like September 8th, which is the second Wednesday of September instead of the first Wednesday of September. And wanted to see how the committee felt about that.
Fine with me.
Is that,
Okay with me.
yeah, it gives us a little breather right after the holiday to get organized. And so I will change the agenda and make a note that we'll look at the same time, 2 p.m. on September 8th for our next meeting. And I will again invite Public Works and Parks. And then the second part of that is, I'm thinking we have a pretty good shot of meeting in person if the committee wanted to. I didn't know if this format works better for everybody. It saves you some travel time back and forth to City Hall. Or if we might even be able to do a hybrid where people who want to call in can call in. And people who want to meet in person, we could maybe meet here at City Hall. Or is it too soon, and should we plan that September 8th is also a Zoom meeting and maybe have a more open meeting in December? I'm open to any option.
I think if everybody's vaccinated, you know, if everyone who comes is vaccinated, I mean, obviously you're not going to, well, I'm assuming you're not going to ask for proof and all that, but if I assume everyone would be honest, I wouldn't, I'm still not comfortable being, given the county is, we're getting to kind of a plateau, you know, we're doing really well. Marin County has done better than any county in the United States. However, we still are kind of stuck at 60% vaccinated. And it's we older people, 65 and older, 98% of us have been vaccinated, but there's a sort of a stubbornness in the younger group. So if it's, because these meetings are public, if the windows were open, yeah, I'd be all right with it. But if
Well, we can open the windows. The problem, so I'm kind of on the same scope because recently we've had a couple small gatherings here at City Hall for retirements and other things, social distancing, all the jazz. But I didn't go to any of them. And then there was some talk about some other functions that are going to occur over the next couple months, which I've already RSVP'd that I wasn't going to attend. My comfort level is I'm not looking to really socialize until after September. And I don't know why I picked September, it's just 3 months away, but. And then I know some other people I've talked to, they've even said, well, until the end of the year, that they're just planning on maybe writing this year off like they did last year and not doing anything until maybe January. So, yeah, so I don't know the comfort level. So I will leave that open, and maybe in August I can send out an email and see what people's preferences then. Right now, I will keep it as a Zoom meeting, and we'll see as it gets closer if people are more open or willing.
if we get up to, if the county gets up to 70 or 80% vaccinated and our cases are down to one in 100,000 or less, then it's probably pretty safe.
Right, I thought they said Marin had the highest vaccination rate in the state.
In the United States. It's the highest county in the United States, and Vermont is the highest. My husband's a scientist, so I hear this stuff all day long, every day. So yeah, Marin County is the most vaccinated county in the United States, which is great. I'm really proud, but we're kind of stuck. It's moving up just really, really slowly. So, we got to this really good plateau, and now we're just barely inching up because it's people, and it's not the teenagers really, it's the people in their 30s and 40s that are sort of sorry, but that's the group that's sort of like afraid that that'll mess up their pregnancies and all kinds of stuff like that, which isn't true. So anyway,
okay, yeah, I got my shots, so
good, thank you. Tell your friends.
I might be more inclined to do another online meeting in September.
Yeah,
I haven't decided when I'm going to be comfortable in person either. I'm susceptible. I work with in person now with susceptible people, so I'm trying to minimize stuff for now, and it's bugging my friends. They're like,
yeah, it bugs my friends too. They're like, "Are you afraid?" And I'm like, "No, I just don't want the hassle."
Better safe than sorry.
Right. I mean,
and unless it's absolutely necessary, we need to be in person. I think.
Yeah.
This works for the time being.
Okay. Well, we will do Zoom. I might send out an email in August just to confirm, but it works for me. I know some people have expressed that it saves them some drive time, finding a parking space, a hassle.
But with all those parklets, yeah.
Yeah, all the parklets. Yeah, I was trying to, I did go out and eat at one of the parklets not too long ago. And I just was driving back from Petaluma to San Rafael, and I'm like, oh, I'll just park downtown. And I had the hell of a time finding a parking spot.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a good meal, and it was very social distance and everything out on the side of the sidewalk and parking space. And it was almost kind of like normal, almost, but yeah, I just like trying to limit my exposures also.
We've been downtown on the Thursday and Friday night street opening, for restaurants. And because it's also spread out, we park in a parking lot, and then I bring my scooter because it's too much walking for me. I mean, downtown has always been difficult for me because I frequently can't find a parking space. I'll go down there and have an errand to run and then just go home, you know? So and it's definitely worse with the parklets, but if you're able-bodied and you can walk a long ways, it's fine, you know?
Well, we were even talking about that, Councilman Hill and I, on, is there things that can be placed in downtown, either scooters or bikes, we get into the scooter and bike sharing, but a lot of those that can help people even maybe better use public transit. And I think you and I talked about that too, just having better parking down by public transit, right? So people
Yeah.
utilize it. Because as we age, I will walk a certain distance, and if I have to carry groceries, that distance is about halved, right? So even though I live downtown San Rafael, I probably won't walk over to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. That's just on the outside of my distance, even without groceries. But I will walk over to the Safeway downtown, although I don't like going to that Safeway, but I will. But how do you improve those? And I even thought myself, I might get a little scooter or like a skateboard or scooter or a little electric bike and just keep it in my closet in my apartment. And when I want to go to Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, use that instead of the car. And so I've also heard other people that would like to use the transit system in downtown to come to downtown. But once they get here, it might be on the other end of 4th Street where they have to walk or commute to. And how do you do that easily?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just finished another book, and I emphasize how so many people, when you ask for directions in many places, especially overseas, because people walk more there than they do here, but everywhere I go, if I ask for directions and people say it's just a short ways, it's a 5-minute walk. Well, that's a 20 or 30-minute walk for me, So I've learned to say how many blocks, and that type of thing, because people don't know what a quarter mile is, but they usually know how many blocks.
Well,
So,
I would even like
issue.
I wouldn't mind taking the train just over to Terra Linda, right? But their station is in such a weird location. It's not really near anything.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
So how do you, especially if the mall gets improved or gets developed differently, how do you make that connection to the mall better?
Gotta climb over the overpass.
Yeah, and then I think there's a large, it seems like a lot of garbage and stuff gets dumped along that street there too, next to the food. So it's interesting challenges for sure. Anything else, Ashley, John, Tim, Francine?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, well, thank you for showing up today. I'm glad we got a quorum. And I will keep in touch, and hopefully we'll have better updates on September's meeting, September 8th.
Good.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Don.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.